Hi there. In this video, I'm going to talk about database. A lot of people have trouble understanding what a database is and how it functions. Basically, you know the term that database is there somewhere on your website or on your server and it is storing your data, but you are seriously not aware of how it does that, how a web page or any kind of system that works on that data fetches the data from the database and how basically it's structured. So in this video I'm going to talk about very basic details of what database is, and after this you would be able to at least understand the basic concepts of a database. So starting with the Wikipedia definition of database. A database is just an organized collection of data. The data are typically organized to model aspects of reality in a way that supports process requiring information. For example, modeling the availability of rooms in a hotel in a way that supports finding a hotel with vacancies. This is a little complicated definition. Basically, database is very simply a collection of a lot of tables which has data stored in them which is of relevance to the application. So for example, if you run a hotel and if you have if you want to know the information about your customers, so basically this information is stored in the database. Now, how does this database stores this information? Basically, it is a very common form of database that is called as a relational database management system, and most websites which are running on the MySQL server use that kind of database system. So basically, relationship database management system is nothing but relationship between multiple tables. So if I just draw it for you, let's say we have table like this and we have a table like this and table like this. Okay, and I am going to call this table as customer. Okay, and the other table I'm going to call as the customer address, which is the address, and the third table I would call as phones. So on a primary level, your data, if you look at it in a structured manner, this would be uh, the way data would be expressed in any of the form. You don't have to worry about the RDBMS. So basically, a customer information is divided into three parts. First is the customer itself, himself or herself, the address of the customers, and various phone numbers of the uh, those addresses. So a customer entity, or if you call it table, can have information about customer, very basic information. For example, his first name and the last name, then salutation, and if you create any special ID, call as customer ID, and these kind of things. And the address table would have something like street, flat number, city, and so on, while the phone will have information like landline, whether it's landline phone or cell phone or cell phone, another cell phone. So basically these are just the columns of the table. So customer has following columns: first name, last name, salutation. Like address has all these three and phone has the three. So now your information is very structured. So the only thing that is needed is to connect these tables. To do that, there's one additional hidden field which you might have seen but don't know what it is. It's called as ID. You can call it anything, but it has to be kind of a fixed field. So for every customer, this would have fixed value which will never change. And this ID is connected to the customer ID in this table like this, and I will draw a line here, and this ID right here is connected to this customer ID. So one customer can have one address, maybe multiple address. Right now keep it one address, but there is a record in this address table as well, which is like one street and one flat number, one city, and it is connected to this. So this address table will have its own field. Let's call it ID again. This ID is different from the customer ID. It's the ID of the row of the address. And since one address has could have multiple phones or single phone, so we'd like to connect the ID of the address record right here to the ID of the phone record here. So we will create a field here called as, let's call it address ID. And this address ID is connected to the ID of the address like this. And each row of phone would have its own ID, and we can call it ID again, and just like this. And if we have further tables, we can go on like this. Now what's the benefit of storing information like this? So for example, a customer arrives at your hotel and wants to book a room, then you would have to first pull up his details from your database if he has already stayed, or if you want to add new details. So let us say that he had already stayed with you some time back and you have his details. So what you are going to do is you're going to ask him last name or the first name, or his customer ID, and then pull up this record. So when the system searches for this table, it pulls up the record, and then from this ID it also shows you the address of that customer, and from that address it picks up the phone. So you basically can have a validation that this is the same person based on the address, same address and the same phone, or if you want to update that data, you can do it. So basically this information is now very well organized in multiple tables. This is the basic concept of a database. So one important point to be noted here is, a question you might be asking is, why a customer has only one address? So that is correct. The customer might have more than one address, and uh, this is not a one-to-one relationship. Right now it is just one-to-one relationship. One customer record means here one address, and one address here means one phone. But this sometimes gets a little difficult to handle. So one customer can have multiple records in here, so it will have multiple IDs like this. So one record in customer will have more than one record in the address. And if you see the phone table is also a little bit unoptimized, that all the phones are in one record, and if I want to add one more phone type, it would be very difficult. So even the phone table can be broken down into further set of a table which has something called as, let's call it phone once again. Okay, and it will have something called as column as phone type. Let me reduce the size again just to show it to you. And then there could be something like phone number. So phone type could be a cell phone or a landline or any other kind of a phone that you have got, and the phone number is the corresponding thing. So now instead of having one-to-one relationship, this address, individual address, can have multiple relationship with the ID in here. So one address definitely could have multiple phones. For example, if it is an office, and hence you have understood a very important principle called as the normalization of data, where you have taken a data that is kind of could be broken down further, and you have broken it down further in another table and created more granularity. It's much easier to save data like this and retrieve it, uh, and basically it's very easy to modify this table and add information to that. Sometimes there would could be a case where you have multiple information. For example, if you have multiple hotels like this, I'll just add hotels here. So this table is hotel, and you have multiple customers going to multiple hotels. So how do you connect that? Because this is neither a single direction, a single relationship, nor it is one to many like this. So here it is many to many. So many customers will stay in many hotels. So this is indicated something like this. Many customers, many hotels with ID and all those things. These are three kind of relationships that you can have between tables. First is one to one. Second is one to many, as in customer to address or address to the new phone table. And then many to many, as in a lot of customers staying in a lot of hotels. Some customers and hotels could be common, or when a customer enters a new hotel, then it's a new record. So this is the basic of how a database table is created. To move on, what is this column part of it? Actually, the columns are something that have some kind of type. So for example, first name would be a kind of a string, which will store the string information, while if you have some another table which has a column called as bill, and it has some money in it or date on it or checking out information, then it will have different kind of data type. So basically this whole thing that you see right over here, like this, the whole thing, it is called as the database. So I hope that I was able to clear some of the information. It's a very complicated topic, and it's not easy to understand at first shot, but if you take a case study like this, it makes life very easy. Thanks for watching.